Hello knitters. This video is going to explain and be a recap for the students from my first sweater class. We're going to make this little jumper from the top down, and it's a circular yoke, so I'll show you how to do the cast on using the German twisted cast on. Then how to do the make ones to do these increases. And I have already created a video to show you how to split the sleeves stitches off or separate for sleeves, and then another one on how to pick up these sleeve stitches so that you can make this whole thing in the round with no seams. Okay, so let's get started. We'll do the German twisted cast on first. I've got some 14 ply, 12 to 14 ply, 100% wool yarn here, just to play with. And I'll be using a 6.5 millimeter, 80 centimeter, measured from tip to tip, circular needle for this project. We also use a 40 centimeter tip to tip, 6.5 millimeter, 40 centimeter to knit the body of the sweater, just to make it easier to go round and round so we don't have to magic loop the whole thing. The neck stitches are too few to start on a 40 centimeter tip to tip. They're just a bit too difficult to make the circle at the beginning, so we're going to start with magic loop. Right, so the German twisted cast on, you need to, it's a long tail cast on, so I'm just going to estimate how much yarn I need. So I'm going to measure roughly 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, so approximately this many will give me 10 stitches. So if I do that, I will get the right number. So I needed 40, plus I need a bit of tail and a bit extra for good measure. So that's how I estimate my long tail. German twisted does use a little more yarn than an ordinary long tail cast on as well. Okay, so if you've already done a long tail cast on before, you know that we hold the yarn between our thumb and our forefinger, and we have the tail and the working yarn enclosed in our other 3 fingers like this too. And there's some tension on that yarn there. So our first stitch, you can create a slip knot, but I find it easier just to insert my needle underneath and hold it with my index finger and pull it down so it looks like a slingshot. And for the German twisted, we're going to go under both thumb strands and down into the thumb yarn, and then take that over to the finger yarn and pull it through that little triangle that gets created. Release our thumb and then take the tension back. That's 2 stitches. Let's do that again. Going under both, down into the thumb yarn hole, then take it over. We're maintaining that tension on our thumb, going over the top of the finger yarn, and now we're bringing that through. Just watch how I manipulate my thumb. I just turn it around like this so that I can get the needle through that little triangle that gets created. Then I drop the thumb and tighten it. We want to make sure that's not too tight, so I check by running it on my needle to make sure that I can move them easily. We'll start again. Under and down, over, and then through, and then let them go. Okay, we have 40 stitches. So now we're going to join for working in the round using the magic loop. So the first step is to put the stitches, halve them, there's 20 on each side, and pull the cable out. Did you see how I did that? Maybe I should do that again. Let's do that. So there's your 20 middle point. And you're just going to pull the cable out like that. Careful not to bend your cable. The chiaogus are great, they don't bend much, but you have to be careful if you've got a nylon plastic cord, because you can kink them permanently. Okay, so here we go. We've got the stitches on our needles. Now the next thing, you'll always see in a pattern that says be careful not to twist, and what they mean is that these stitches all have to be facing the same direction, so they're nice and flat. If they were twisted like this, you'd end up with a Mobius. We don't want that, so just smooth them and make them all face each other. I like to say I use the crocodile method, so that the teeth are facing each other like that. Now the next thing to do is check. We want our working yarn to be at the back or the top, not here where it is now. So if you find it in this position, just give them a flip so that it's at the back or the top. Okay, check these haven't twisted, they're still facing each other, that's good. And now you'll take your working yarn, the one attached to your ball, and you'll wrap it over, just lay it over the back needle like that. Hold the two needles firmly. This needle, the one with the working yarn attached, is the one that you pull out. And you'll be knitting, just see how I turn that like that, I'm knitting into the stitches on that front needle. So the teeth are still facing each other on the inside, nothing got twisted, and my yarn is in the right place because I laid it over the needle before. So now I make that stitch, holding it as close as possible, and we're starting straight away with ribbing. So that was knit one, purl one, all the way around. Now some people will get concerned because of the gap that gets created here. Please don't worry about it, it sorts itself out in the end. There is a little gap, but don't forget this side is on a cable, not on a needle, so that does get taken up. And if for any reason it's still gappy after you've done a few rows, you can always sew it up at the end with the tail. That's what the tail's there for. So I am a continental knitter, so I will switch to continental so that I can get around this ribbing quickly. I'll show you what to do when we get to the end of this needle. So knit one, purl one. Sorry, it's a bit awkward into the camera. Yep. And the final stitch, that's the 20th stitch. When you get here, just drop the needle. Okay, and then flip. So that stays at the back, on the top. This needle gets pushed back in. We're back with both needles pointing to the right. This yarn gets laid over the back. And then that one gets pulled out, and then you knit. That will be a knit stitch because the last one I did was a purl, and you keep going. So it's very easy with continental. I'll just undo that and show you English style knitting. Okay, so we're in this position. We started here, both needles pointing to the right. The working yarn gets laid over the back. That's the one, the needle that's attached to the ball gets laid over. This is the one that gets pulled out. So hold these stitches in place. Stick your needle in then pick up your yarn and knit and purl. Some people hold their yarn like this, and that's fine. Just stick your hand in that hole there to do that. Keep going to the end. I'm going to switch. Magic of the magic loop in these two loops, you can see. All magic loop is using a long circular needle to knit a small circumference, and it's about getting the cable out of the way. So it's actually easier to do magic loop with a longer cable. That sounds counterintuitive, but you wouldn't want to use a 60 centimeter to do this. It wouldn't be enough. Okay, so we're dropping. It says a little gap, a little pull here, but honestly it will go away. So now we flip, push that needle back in, check that cable, the working yarn attached to my ball is on the back. Lay the yarn over. That's a little bit, that's my tail there. And then pull that one out and work into the front. Here. So when you find yourself turning it and notice that the working yarn is at the front, you think, what did I do? It needs to be at the back. Just make it go to the back. So flip the work and tuck that work back down in there, and you see that it's at the back before you begin. That's really important. Pulling our needle out, inserting into the first stitch, and then knit. Here's your tail, so we know that's the beginning of round. See? So you're knitting half the stitches at a time. That's the German twisted cast on. It's very stretchy, perfect for necks. Okay, keep doing that ribbing, and then we'll come back when we reach the first decrease round. Okay, we have 4 rounds of ribbing. 1, 2, 3, plus 1 on the needle is 4. And we're going to start doing the decrease round. So continuing with magic loop, yarn over the back needle, pull that needle out and start knitting into the front. We're going to knit 4 and then make 1 and repeat all the way around. So we started with 40 stitches, and if we knit 4, make 1, we'll end up when we get back to this point with 50 stitches. So we're going to increase 10 times. So here's our 1, 2, 3, 4 knits, and then we're going to make 1. So to make 1, we need to pick up the bar, which is this bar, between the 2 columns of stitches. Here's our purl column, here's our knit column, and so we're picking up that strand there. Now, the way that I do the make 1 is, and if it doesn't specify make one or make one left or make one right, then you choose whichever one you like and just do that one, be consistent throughout the whole one. Don't swap and change. So we're going to stick our needle in underneath that bar, our left needle, and then if we knit here, we'll have a hole, so we don't want to do that. So I'm going to knit in through the back loop to close up that hole. That's a make one. Okay, it's a make one left. So we're going to knit 4, 2, 3, 4, and then make one. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, and make one. Knit front backs are not interchangeable with make ones. The numbers of your pattern won't work out if you just swap that increase. You need to make sure that you know what you know how to transfer them if you prefer to do a knit one front back. So if it says make one, just definitely make one. Make ones create a stitch from nothing, whereas a knit front back uses a stitch to do its increase. So just be aware of that. We're making one, and then finally, this is to get to the first half. There's my 4. A very common error that the students do is to forget to make an increase here. So that's the end of that first needle. So just while your needle's still out, grab that loop there and make a stitch between the 2 needles. Then turn and put your needle in, and then pull your needle out and continue with your knit 4, make one. These are the final 4 stitches. 3, 4, and then make sure you make one last stitch here, and that will be 50 stitches. 10 increases in total. You can see them here. There's a slanting line here next to my purl, a slant, and then knit column. So that's how you can count. If your stitch count is out, you can find them to count them. You should have 10 for this round. Okay, keep knitting. You've got some plain rows to do. Rounds 2 to 5 are just knit, and you've got another increased round at round 6, and then another increased round at round 15. And once you get to there, you'll have 100 stitches on the needles. Then I will show you how to take the sleeve stitches off and separate the sleeves from the body.